Victoria Sterling, age 45 years, was known in the city as a powerful woman who built her empire from nothing. Her presence carried confidence, but in that hospital corridor, her strength looked shaken for the first time in years. Daniel Cole, age 38 years, stood beside a hospital bed holding a stethoscope in his hand that did not belong to him. He was not a famous doctor, not a rich specialist, just a man who once worked construction and learned first aid from old field medics during hard years of life. On the bed lay Mia Cole, age 10 years, a small girl with pale skin, tired eyes, and a fragile body that had already fought too many battles for her age. Around them, doctors stood frozen. Dr. Whitfield, age 52 years, Dr. Bennett, age 47 years, and two young residents who had just witnessed something they could not explain. The monitors in the room were stable now, but only moments ago they had been failing. Victoria's voice broke as she looked at her daughter. She had flown through meetings and boardrooms her whole life controlling billions. Yet she could not control this moment. Mia had collapsed during a private charity gathering at the hospital. Top doctors had tried everything. They said there was nothing more to do. The words had felt like a final door closing. Daniel had been there only because he was working temporary maintenance in the hospital. He was not supposed to enter patient care areas. But when he saw the commotion, his feet moved before his thoughts could stop him. He had seen Mia through the glass. The girl looked like his own daughter who had passed years ago in a rural clinic when help arrived too late. Something inside Daniel broke open. He stepped inside without permission. The doctor shouted at him to stop. Victoria turned shocked and furious at a stranger touching her child. But Daniel was already focused only on the girl. He placed his hands gently where he had once been taught pressure could help circulation in emergencies. He spoke softly to Mia even though she was unconscious. "You are not leaving yet," he whispered. "Not today." The room filled with tension. Machines beeped irregularly. A nurse called security, but then something changed. Mia took a shallow breath. Dr. Whitfield froze mid-sentence. That should not have been possible. Daniel adjusted the girl slightly and checked breathing patterns the way he had learned in emergency workshops years ago when he could not afford medical school. He noticed something the others had missed. A blocked airway reaction triggered by a rare delayed complication not fully visible in scans. It was not textbook simple. It was subtle and it was dangerous because everyone assumed the main illness was the only problem. Daniel acted quickly using a basic manual technique he had learned from a retired army medic who once lived in his neighborhood. Slow, steady pressure, careful alignment, patient breathing rhythm guidance. Minutes passed like hours. Victoria stood still watching the stranger work on her child, as if he understood something the entire hospital had overlooked. Her anger slowly turned into confusion, then fear, then something closer to hope. Mia coughed suddenly, a sharp sound that broke the silence. The monitor stabilized further. Dr. Bennett stepped forward, disbelief written across his face. "This should not be happening," he said quietly. But it was happening. Mia opened her eyes slightly and looked at Daniel. She whispered a faint thank you. Victoria covered her mouth, tears forming without permission. Daniel stepped back immediately as security finally entered the room. He raised his hands calmly. "I am not staff," he said simply. "I just saw something wrong." The guards hesitated because the child was now stable. Dr. Whitfield examined the results quickly and realized the truth. The blockage had been missed. Even their advanced team had overlooked it. A silence spread through the room heavier than before. Victoria turned slowly toward Daniel. "Who are you?" she asked softly, now no longer angry, but shaken. Daniel looked at her, then at Mia. "Just someone who could not walk away," he said. In that moment, something shifted in Victoria's heart. She had spent her life trusting titles, degrees, and wealth. Yet here was a man with none of those who had done what the best system in the city failed to do. Later that night, Mia was moved to a recovery room. Daniel returned to his maintenance duties, trying to disappear into his normal life again. But Victoria could not let him go. She found him near the hospital corridor, sitting alone, drinking cheap coffee from a vending machine. The hospital lights were dim now, softer. The noise of the day had faded into quiet echoes. Victoria approached slowly. "You saved my daughter," she said. Daniel shook his head. "I only saw something others missed." She sat opposite him despite the difference in their worlds. For a long time, neither spoke. Outside the window, the city moved with its usual rhythm. Cars passing, distant sirens, the quiet hum of life continuing without pause. Victoria finally spoke again. "I built companies worth billions," she said. "I thought I understood value." Daniel looked at her carefully. "And now?" he asked. She smiled faintly through tired eyes. "Now I think I was wrong about many things." There was silence again, but this time it was peaceful. Victoria asked about his life. Daniel told her about working working construction, about raising his daughter alone, about nights when bills felt heavier than hope, about the day he lost everything that mattered. His voice never asked for pity, only carried truth. Victoria listened without interruption. For the first time in years, she felt something she had forgotten, connection without transaction. Days passed. Mia recovered slowly. Each morning, she asked if the kind man would come again. Daniel did not want attention, but Victoria insisted. The hospital eventually confirmed what had happened. A rare, overlooked condition had been corrected by immediate manual intervention before permanent damage. The board of the hospital wanted to know who Daniel was. Victoria refused to let them treat him like a curiosity. Instead, she invited him into a private meeting, a room usually reserved for executives and decisions that moved money across continents. Daniel entered, uncomfortable in his simple clothes. Victoria stood and addressed him not as a businessman, but as a human being. "You saved my daughter," she said again, "and I cannot repay that with money alone." Daniel replied softly, "Then do not try." That answer surprised her. For most of her life, every problem had a price, but this one did not. Victoria offered him a position leading emergency response training programs across her hospital network. Not as charity, but as recognition of what she had witnessed. Daniel hesitated. He had never been inside that world, but he thought of Mia, of other children, of moments where small knowledge could mean everything. He finally agreed. Months later, the hospital changed. Training improved, emergency mistakes decreased, lives were quietly saved because of systems Daniel helped design. But the most important change was not in statistics. It was in people. Doctors began to listen more carefully. Nurses began to trust instincts again. And Victoria Sterling began to see success differently. One evening, she visited Mia in the garden outside the hospital. Daniel was there, sitting beside her, teaching her how to identify birds by sound. Mia laughed, something she had not done freely in weeks. Victoria watched quietly. Daniel noticed her and nodded. She sat down beside them. The sun was setting softly, turning everything golden. Victoria spoke quietly. "I used to think strength meant control," she said. "Now I think it means knowing when to listen." Daniel nodded. "Strength is also knowing when to stop walking away." Silence followed, but it was warm. Mia leaned against her father, then looked at Victoria. "Are you happy now?" she asked innocently. Victoria paused. "Not because of money or success," she said softly, "but because I understand something I forgot for a long time." The girl smiled. "That is good." Daniel looked at both of them. "Sometimes life breaks us just to show us what matters." Victoria nodded slowly. In that moment, none of them were billionaire, single dad, or patient. They were simply people sharing a quiet piece of life, and sometimes that is enough. Days later, Daniel stood in front of a training group at the hospital. He was no longer invisible, but he still spoke with the same calm voice. He told them, "You do not need to be the smartest in the room. You just need to see what others miss." Victoria watched from the back of the room. She remembered the first moment she saw him, a stranger who stepped into chaos without permission and changed everything. Not with power, not with money, but with presence. And in a world that often forgets simple humanity, that was the most shocking thing of all. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.